We've covered a lot in HTML so far, so I want to use this video as an opportunity to show you a quick review of everything that we've learned. And by quick, I mean really quick. Let's start up at the very top with the structure of an HTML page. It starts with the HTML tag, and then we also have a head and a body. Every head tag should have a title tag as a requirement that indicates the title of the page up top here. So for this, we're going to say HTML review. And that showed up top here. And then inside the body, that's where most of the content that you actually see takes place. Starting with headings. Let's start with an H1, H2, H3, and call it an H3. And then H4, call it an H4. Now H5, call it an H5. And then H6, call it an H6. Headings and paragraphs are block style elements, meaning they take up the full width of the page. We can also add inline styling, and in this case I'm going to give all headings a style of display inline to make them all inline elements so that they'll fit on one line. Next we get into the other text tag that I mentioned called paragraphs, and paragraphs are long blocks of text that are also displayed as block style by default, meaning they take up the full width of the page, unlike span, which can take up as much width as the text inside the span tag. Whereas if we added another paragraph here, this will start on a new line. So let's make this a little bit neater, and let's add some formatting to it. With HTML, we're given some default formatting tags like the bold tag with a B. And then there's also the I tag for italics. And let's put this inside italics. There's also an EM tag for extra emphasis. And that's some basic fundamental styling for text. Next, we get into formatting elements with images, which take the source attribute of an image that's hosted locally, and it's generally a good idea to have a separate directory for the images folder or separate folder. And now I'm going to give this the course image, alt text for better readability, course image for HTML5 and CSS3 course, and then we can also specify a height and set that equal to 300 for this image. Other formatting elements we have available are ordered lists and unordered lists. Ordered lists can accept a list item. And this is a good way for ranking items starting at 1. And let's call this list best directors and rank it starting at Christopher Nolan. And then we have James Cameron, Quentin Tarantino. We also have unordered lists, which are more bulleted style lists, and this is good for things like groceries. So let's get some carrots, potatoes, and bread. Finally, we have one other way of formatting, which is tables, and tables need, at a minimum, a row indicated by the TR tag, and also a data element, or a cell indicated by TD. So in this first row, let's write some fruits. For the next TD, let's say apple. Then we have another TD, banana, and a third TD for orange. And with tables, we can also add a border property, and let's just give it a border of 1. Let's create another row for the next set of data in our table. And this time, let's have it be vegetables, and note that the width of each cell automatically adjusts to the largest cell. Let's add carrots, another TD for lettuce, and a last one for cucumbers. Finally, let's add a last row for cheeses. Let's add brie, blue cheese, and finally cheddar. Note that we can also nest tags, so we can put all these fruits and vegetables inside of a B tag for extra emphasis to let everyone know that they are the first items in the table. And nesting tags can be done with lists, with tables, and various other different elements. We can nest images inside of tables to create a photo gallery. Now let's get into HTML5, starting with the video tag, which allows us to just embed a video right inside of our web page. I'm going to refer to a video that I recorded earlier in the course called Tooling Up, when we installed brackets, and I'm going to give it a height of 300. Actually, let's give this a height of 200. And notice we can't really do anything with the video yet, so let's add controls. And this allows us to play, turn the volume down, download the video, etc. We can also add a preload tag so that the video will load as the web page is loaded, and that saves our users a little bit of time. In case our users don't have HTML5, we can just say your browser does not support the latest standards. Please upgrade. And this will only show up to people who don't support HTML5. Finally, we have an audio tag. Similar to video, we specify a source, and I have a soundtrack that's generally used in the back of the course as background music. And similar to the video tag, we don't see anything until we add the controls attribute. Finally, we also have forms in HTML5. We're not going to deal with actions here because that generally has to do with server-side logic or JavaScript. So we're just going to create a simple form with an input type email and then another input type password. And we can add breaks in between here. And in order to make these inputs a little bit more accessible for assistive technology users, we can add a label tag, and we can either give this input an ID of email address and then refer to the email address as an ID for this label, or we can just enclose the input inside of a label tag, and then the label will automatically be detected as being assigned to this input. And again, this is so that assistive technology users can have read aloud functions for screen readers that will function properly. In addition to email and password, HTML5 also added other input types like date, time, and one of my personal favorites, color, where we can actually click on it and select a color wheel and find the hex value and all that good stuff. Probably one of the most important features of HTML5 is the ability to section your content into logical pieces. So I'm going to add a section tag here to just divide up the content a little bit better. These are all form elements. I'm going to give this a heading 2 of form elements. Then up here we can add another section for multimedia since we have audio and video. And I'll create an H2 called multimedia. Similarly, I'll add a section here above the table, here above the images, and here above the formatting text. So add a section here, indent everything underneath it, and then add a closing section tag here. Indent everything underneath this. These are some presentation elements. Call this presentation elements. Call this text formatting tags. Now finally, let's add a little navigation menu up top. href, and I'm going to refer the current file, all of html.html. And here's something you might not have seen before. Refer to an ID. So I'm going to give this section an ID of text formatting. I'm going to refer to text formatting here. Call it text formatting. Another a tag referring to the next section. Give that an ID of presentation, and have it refer to all of html.html, presentation. Give the next section an ID of multimedia. Go back up to our navigation, add an a tag, href to all of HTML, multimedia, call it multimedia. And finally, we have forms, all of HTML, hashtag forms, and forms. Now let's go down to our form elements and give it an ID of forms. So now when we scroll up here, it'll take us down to forms, scroll up here, take us down to multimedia, and we have a basic functioning navigation using just ID selectors. That's HTML in a nutshell. Hope you enjoyed it.